Well, hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Fast Trax Live. My name is Paul Abernathy, your host as always, and it's been a minute since I've seen everybody, and I can tell you right off the bat, it wouldn't be normal if I didn't look fairly pale on screen. So, let me change that so that nobody gets concerned about my health. Hey, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining me on another Wednesday night session. My name's Paul Abernathy. If you're not familiar with who I am or have ever been to any of my streams, where have you been? Thanks for joining me. Now, before I get started tonight, we'll talk about tonight's topic, but I do want to give a message out there again to all of our Fast Trax students and people that have been through our Fast Trax program. You will notice that we are not doing the Wednesday night Zooms anymore. We have switched, it's been a while now, but we have switched over to these live streams. And again, for Fast Trax students, if you want questions answered out of your Fast Trax program, you must send the questions to me 24 hours in advance so we can put slides together so I can better illustrate the examples to you. That's the only rule, okay? So for those that did not do that, we've been announcing it for a while now. Sorry, we're going to stick to our agenda for tonight. All right, so tonight's show is sponsored by Fast Trax Tube. If you haven't been to Fast Trax Tube yet, where you been? It's the latest platform for video streaming and our podcasts. And you can actually listen to all of our podcasts from it. You don't even have to subscribe to listen to the podcasts. All you got to do is just go to Fast Trax Tube, and you'll see a link for podcasts. You highlight over it, and you'll see Master the NEC podcast. So simply click on that. You'll see all of them. I think there's 735 different podcasts on there. So listen to all of them, scroll through them. Don't ask me to index them. They're the best I can. I just choose to tell you to just listen, right? That's the best I can tell you. All right. Well, hopefully everybody's doing well and enjoying the new platform, and the stream's working fine for you. We'll be on launching on all the platforms, all our social media platforms. So whether you want to listen or watch on YouTube, or you want to watch over on, I look awful pale, don't I? What do you think, Schwartzy? Do I look pale in this, or do I look okay? All right. Anyway, I do want to give some shout outs to those that have joined us in tonight's chat. Oldie but goodie. We want to yell out to Ronbo. Thanks for joining us. It's been a long time, bro. Haven't seen you in any of our Wednesday nights. I haven't seen you anywhere in a while. So thanks for joining. David Englehart is in the house, our latest CMECP. Okay, so David went through the program, became a certified master electrical code professional. David, congratulations again to you on that. Let's see here. Well, who else we got in the stream? Schwartzy, as always, our rock. Schwartzy's always there. Welcome, Schwartz. Thanks for joining me. Red Dog, thank you for joining me. John Peters, you have an E2 test tomorrow. Good luck. I know you'll ace it. Just focus. Go in positive. Take some of the things that we're going to talk about tonight into, because I will be talking about pre-testing, right before the test, what to do when you get to the test. We'll be talking about some of those things tonight. So hopefully you'll get something out of that. Hola, welcome. And let's see who else we got in here. Okay, Jesse. Thank you, Jesse. Thanks for joining. Jesse's usually always is in our Wednesday nights Zooms, and now we're kind of doing it live stream. So remember, folks, Fast Trax students, questions are still going to get answered, but you've got to send them to me in advance. So make sure you send them in advance. Otherwise, we go on a different agenda, and hopefully you'll get something out of it. Okay. Good evening, Oscar. Thanks for joining me. All right, so let's talk a little bit before I get to into a little bit. We're going to go to the chatting screen so people can see your comments. And we'll go talk a little bit about what it takes to prepare for an electrical exam, right? So let's kind of get over here to chatting here, and you can see Eric's in the house. So let's think about it a little bit. So what does it take to prepare for an electrical exam? Because people are studying for electrical exams all the time. And we're not always going to do exam prep on Fast Trax Live, but since it's one of the newer first couple episodes, it's important that we talk about it. the mentality going into exams is you need to think about studying, whether you're using our program or somebody else's program or whatever you're doing. And if you're getting ready or you've already had your exam, feel free to comment and give your insight, because people will see it on the screen. But when you start to think about what it takes to prepare for an electrical exam, one of the things that I try to tell people is that it takes about 90 days to make that happen. Okay? It takes about 90 days, and I'm still playing with my color because I swear I look like I'm pale as a ghost. Hold on for a second, folks. Playing with my color. I look pale as a ghost. Okay, that's a little better, but that's a little brighter than my shirt is. Yeah, I know, Paul. You're supposed to fix this stuff before you get on here. That's okay. I can do whatever I want. It's my show. So, whatever somebody's been using, be careful with that book. There's some questions in there. We actually use that database in ours, and there's some wonky questions in there. So, now, when you're preparing for an electrical exam, whether you've been it or not, what you want to do, you want to make sure that you give yourself at least about 90 days to study. 90 days, 3 months is the magic number. The sweet spot is 95 to 100 hours of dedicated study time. So for those that are in the Fast Trax programs, for example, or the ones that monitor it, ours, you can go and see the amount of time you've logged in. And what we've done is we've determined that it takes about 95 to 100 hours of dedicated study. Okay. So it must be the pink shirt and no hat. That's right. Well, I don't wear a hat in here anymore because, it actually looks okay. I'll wear that. Okay. I didn't think it looked good, but it's not black, trust me, but that's what it comes up as. So I think it's because of the background, but that's okay. 95 to 100 hours of dedicated study. Now, the only thing that makes our Fast Trax program, and here, I'm not stumping that tonight, but what I'm saying, the only thing that makes Fast Trax unique is that it's designed in a way David, I sent you a link for the hats. Go check your email. We've already had like 4 or 5 CMECPs order hats already. Again, they're embroidered front and back. And they're not cheap, but that's what you get when you do one-offs. We don't mass produce these, but they are embroidered. So you did get an email. I sent it. You were on the list. So get me off track here, David. So when our program is structured. So what it does is it takes you through chapter 1 or unit 1 and works your way all the way up to unit 19. Now, if you're studying at home, whether you're using the Ray Holders, whether you're using Holtz, or whether you're using somebody else's, you still need to make sure that you take your time and section your study plan. In other words, it's not a race. So if I were to get a bunch of questions by Ray Holder or whoever, it's not, the problem that some people do is they immediately grab it. And what they'll do is, you can't get this hat. Oh, you got to earn this hat. There ain't no giveaways for this hat. This is earned. This little lapel pin, this is earned. And for all those CPs out there that hadn't got their lapel pins yet, sorry, I was out of the office for an entire week, so I'm behind. We're all behind, but they will come out, so don't worry. Any of the ones, the recent CMECPs. So when you take a question, instead of trying to answer 100 questions fast, I have been teaching people for years, one of the things that you need to do is to stop and make sure that you dissect the question. Don't be worried about trying to finish them all in an hour and 20 minutes, 2 hours, 2.5 hours. No, I'd prefer you to take each question one at a time, dissect it, and that way you get used to maneuvering the National Electrical Code. Okay? You get used to maneuvering this book because if you stop and look up all the possible ways to answer a question, then you become what? You become more familiar with the code book. And one of the biggest things that I get from people is they either run out of time on an exam and they're like, well, I run out of time, and I didn't have, and I just had to start guessing, or I left them blank. Okay, and we're also going to have a couple code questions here shortly when we go to that segment of the show. So we'll have some of those and let you see those as well. But again, so one of the biggest things about our program, the Fast Trax program, is the little chevrons. So if you've ever been through our program, you'll see little chevrons that give you code references. So you're going to go from the course material to the code book, then the course material to the code book. So that's called structured learning. So my advice for anybody out there that's just got code questions, the advice is don't be in such a hurry to answer all the questions. Again, you blow all these questions out. You didn't spend all your money on questions and you're blowing them out. You need to take your time. Now, when it comes down to the last 2 weeks, well, then that's when you can start timing yourself, right? So, but until then, you don't really need to. You need to take your time, okay, and focus on the question, okay? All right. Another tip that I'll tell people about preparing, getting ready for an electrical exam. We're going to talk a lot of tips tonight, a lot of things. The one thing I will tell you is be very careful where you buy your code books, okay? Now, I know that the Basement Kings is selling code books over in his TikTok channel. Check him out over there. I think it's Basement King 12. He does a lot. He uses our Fast Trax program to do some of his nightly practice questions and stuff like that. So check him out if TikTok is your thing. We're also on TikTok. It is the Fast Trax System is our handle, so you can go subscribe to us on that. We use that just for launching and give information because I loathe TikTok. But anyway, so let's talk about code books. So a lot of people have been sending me over the past, probably 2 years. They get code books, and the code books are missing code references. Their pages missing. There's sometimes it doesn't give you inches, but gives you millimeters, but no inches. And a majority of what we work in is inches and feet, and they give meters. And you're supposed to have both in the code. But you'll notice that you get a code book and those will be missing. And so then people will do questions and they can't find questions, right? And they're thinking, well, what's the deal? Why can't I find any questions? And that is because guess what? They just weren't, the code was a copy, a counterfeit. They are all over Amazon. So folks, my only advice, and I'll give you these little tips tonight. My only advice is when spending money, not just courses, but spending money on your tools of the trade, and the code book is a tool of the trade. Don't think you're buying it just to get by the exam. You're going to need to keep using this thing, right? So think of it as a tool. And when you buy it, don't skimp on it, okay? Don't try to save $10 to go to Amazon unless you can verify the source. If it's NFPA that's selling them on there, that's fine. I usually recommend, if you don't get it from Jay over at on his TikTok, and he even tabs them for you if you want to get them tabbed. My advice would be to go down to your local supply house and buy it local, that type of thing, rather than try to do something on Amazon. And look, I love Amazon like the next person. I get a lot of stuff from Amazon. But code books, I would not, because there is a history there, okay? Now, code books, people ask me these questions all the time, is if I'm taking an exam and it's going to be on the 2023, for example, Texas will be September 1st, will be on the 2023 testing. They're thinking, well, I've been studying the 2020. Can I use the 2020 to take the 2023 test? And obviously you can, but it's going to be a difficult for you because there are enough changes, and all you're doing is putting yourself further behind the 8 ball, right? I always tell people, get the code book for the test you're taking, get the course for your test you're taking. Now, I know through the years that we've had students that have worked through a 2020 and they're taking a 2017 or vice versa. And I get it. Maybe that's the code you had, and the code, maybe the code changed mid-cycle on you. And then most of our students are savvy enough that they adapt to that. Most of them are. Okay, I'm very proud of all of our Fast Track students that will adapt to those type of things. When it comes to a course provider like me, I can't dictate when the state's going to change. Give me a good example. So, and this is some advice to you. If you're preparing for your exam or you're talking, states can be weird. Look, so California, they put out to the NFPA and everybody else that they'd be switching to the 2020 on January 1st. Well, guess what? They're still doing it on the 2017. They didn't go to 2020. Yeah, and that leaves a lot of people screwed when they said, oh, well, they said January 1st they'd be going, so they got their stuff. Here we are now in July, and they started studying the 2020, and the state is still testing on the 2017. So you have to do your due diligence, check with the state, contact them often, and just really try to pin them down. There's no way that an educator like myself are going to know what each state's doing. Okay, so we'll do our best to try to help you, but at the end of the day, we don't really control that aspect of it, and the states do whatever they want. I'll give you another example, Tennessee. So there's a group right in the middle of Tennessee that always seems to go to the latest edition of the code, whereas the rest of the state will stay one cycle or two behind. It really causes confusion, but the state's the one that dictate that. So whatever you're doing, whatever you're studying, my advice, this advice, get a good code book, one that's not counterfeit, and make sure that you get your course that matches whatever your code book is. I do not recommend you studying for the 2020 with the 2017. I do not recommend you study the 2023 with the 2020. There was enough significant changes, okay? Enough significant changes, especially in 2023, that a lot of people, we pre-ordered our course. I don't know if y'all know this, but the 2023 edition of the Fast Trax is out on pre-order. And a large number of people that were interested in it, that are pre-ordering, it's kind of funny because there are certain states that they're not even on 2023, but they getting it because they want to learn what's coming down the pike. So they want to learn the changes, and the 2023 Fast Trax Black will obviously have all the changes in there. That type, the significant changes when it comes to the NEC, the most significant stuff. So a lot of people are not just getting it because of exam prep. They're getting it because they just want to get an in-depth knowledge of the NEC and a little more like that. So whatever floats your boat. All right, so the next thing I'll tell you, people ask me all the time, Paul, what about tabbing? Is it necessary? Okay, tabbing is not necessary. It helps, but it's not necessary. One of the techniques you can do is using the top corner, and when you flip like this, you can see right there all the code sections. So as long as you kind of have an idea where to go, the tabs you don't really need the tabs. And let me explain. Let me explain. So what do I preach? And here, my Fast Track students will know this. If you're in our Fast Trax program, you're in the Fast Trax family, what do I always preach is learn your code articles so that you can start rattling them off. 210 branch circuits, 215 feeders, 225 feeders and branch circuits outside. Okay, 430s motor, 422 appliances, 680 pools, spas, hot tubs, whatnot, 690 PV systems, right? 200 grounded conductors, okay, 100 definitions, 90 administrative. All these type of, get used to them so that when you're there and you see a question, you're not always going to be crutched with the tabs. The tabs are great. But remember, some states don't let you use tabs, okay? They don't do that. So you can do it. Now, O makes a great point. If you see in the chat, flashcards. In our Fast Trax program, we have electronic flashcards, and you can make unlimited amounts of flashcards. So I always tell students, make an electronic flashcard that you can, after every training session, do some flashcards. You can make unlimited on every article, every, maybe significant table, anything like that, so that you can just be able to rattle them off. Now, if you get good at that and you look at a question, then you don't need tabs, because if you're like, oh, that's 430, then I can take my finger while I'm testing, go right down here, spin, and get me right to 430, and there I am. Just that quick, and I didn't need to look at any tabs. All right, so I tell people, don't let tabs, be your crutch, right? And if you're in a state that doesn't allow tabbing, then really focus on flashcards, really focus on learning whether you buy the 3x5 index cards and make your own. We were talking about that. I've been talking about that for years. Or now, if you're in our program, you get unlimited electronic flashcards. And we've made a lot of them already for you, but you get to make all you want, okay? So, so again, at the end of the day, it all depends on what state you're in, but I am a believer in using everything that can help you, provided your state will allow you. So, you got your code book. Tabs are a wonderful thing if your state allows it, okay? So that's good. If you can do it in your state, tab. Get you some good tabs. NFPA got pretty decent tabs, but they all are pretty much the same. Okay. All right. So, and Mike Holt has some good tabs too. So if you're interested in tabs, Mike can have some great tabs as well. All right. So the next thing I will tell you is use your real estate. Right. So what's real estate? What are we talking about? Okay. So here's what I mean. If you happen to be in a state that allows you to write in your code book, Texas allows it. Other states allow it. If you're allowed to write in your code book and you want to put formulas like voltage drop formulas, all that type of stuff, Ohm's law, symbols, and all that, do it right up here in the front. See all this space in the front? All this blank space that you got here? All these guys and gals that are up here, all these guys who like their name in the code book? Those code panel people. Anyway, you have all this empty space. Remember, use that area to benefit you if you can write in your code book. For example, when I'm teaching classes prior to COVID, when I was teaching live classes and locally here in Texas, I would show them the code, the formulas to put it. In fact, over on my Facebook page, you're going to have to do some searching. But over on the NEC page, the National Electrical Collective, if you scroll down or search for it, you'll actually see all of the pictures I took of one of the code books I did with all of the formulas in there that people write in the front. Okay? I mean, I've got transformer calculation formulas, all kinds of formulas, all in the front. What does that mean, Mike? No comment what? No comment? What are you talking about? Come on, Mike, elaborate. Okay. Also, for those that don't know who Schwartzy is, he's in the comments. M. Schwartz. He is also moderator over on our Fast Trax chat.com. Go check that out. Fast Trax chat. And also moderates over on the Sparky Hub, which is our chat, what is it? Chat forum, whatever. No, that's not chat forum. Message board forum over at www.thesparkyhub.com. Code panel members, no comment? Yeah, no comment. I don't know who those guys and gals are in the front, but they think they're somebody, don't they? All right, so anyway, so that's the second thing. So use your real estate the best you can, okay? Now, next tip I'm going to give you, and this is for people that are not just in our Fast Trax program, but anywhere. When it comes to highlighting your code book, my advice is be frugal. Now, what does frugal mean? That means if you're in our Fast Trax and you have those chevrons, and y'all know what to do, right? Those that are in our programs, you get to those chevrons, you stop, you go to the code book, you look up that code section. Well, maybe good advice would be that every time you see, if you're wanting to know how to highlight your code book, every time you see one of those chevrons, it's probably a reason that we call that out, right? So why wouldn't you highlight that? Not the whole section, okay? Just the important parts. For example, if I was going to do securing and supporting of non-metallic sheath cable, and I was 334.30, and again, 12 inches and what, 4 feet or 4.5 feet, I should say. So why would I highlight the whole thing, right? I just highlight the heading, right? And then I'm going to highlight the 12, and then I'm going to highlight the 4.5. Because that's more often what they're going to probably have on the exam as far as a question. They're asking you these distances. So I am not a believer in highlighting everything, okay? I'm a big believer in highlighting the important stuff. Because let me be honest with you, I've seen some guys' code books, and I ain't calling no names, Grunberg. I've seen the code book where almost the whole page is highlighted. Well, that's exact opposite, because now nothing draws my attention away. It's all highlighted. So my advice to folks out there that are highlighting, highlight the significant things and maybe the header of the actual charging statement, the heading of that, of whatever the section is. But other than that, don't get ink happy, right? Don't get ink happy. You want things to stick out in your mind. You want things to be, you draw attention to that type of stuff, okay? So that's a recommendation that I have for highlighting. Also, don't be afraid to use more than one color highlighter. Those type of things. Again, it just keeps it, the mind doesn't get so focused on one color and then you just get colorblind. Don't be afraid to use multiple colors in order to draw the attention, but just don't get highlight happy, okay? Okay, that's it. That's all I'm gonna say about that, okay? All right. So the next thing that we talk about is, let me talk a little bit about exam anxiety and what happens when you prepare for an exam, and then of course what happens if you ultimately fail for an exam. First of all, let me say this. There is no such thing as failure. Hey, I did notice the Simplex guys in the house. James. Welcome, James. I'm glad you could join us. James is also a very frequent member of our Wednesday night Zoom classes. Great guy, and was always there. Went through the Fast Trax program as well. Is in the house. We call him the Simplex guy. That's what I call him, Simplex guy. So, all right. Let's see here. What else was I talking about before I got off of that? Orlando, thank you for liking the stream. Folks, like the streams on whatever platform you're on. It somehow helps the algorithm and it helps me out. And again, I'm hoping that you appreciate these things that I do for the industry and that you give back the love. I know I got my haters out there, but you know what? As Michael will say, we tune those out. Haters gonna hate, so we don't worry about that. We're here to help you succeed, okay? All right, let's talk about pre-goals anytime. So gentleman that's going to take his exam tomorrow, if you've done the work, you put in the time, you want to go in with the positive attitude. I don't want you waking up and trying to cram before you go, okay? If you have waited till the night before and you feel like you got to study, then you didn't study right. By now, if you're taking it soon, within a week or something like that, you'll be doing practice questions, but you need to go into your exam 100% sure you're going to nail it. Don't say, I hope. Maybe. You got to have that confidence. You got to go in with that confidence and nail that thing. Going to say, you know what? I'm going to go in here and I'm going to set a damn record here. I'm going to get this thing and I'm going to nail it. And they're going to be talking about me, right? Okay, they're going to be talking about how that guy came in here and slammed that exam, that type of thing, right? So get in the mindset that you're going to nail it. Don't stay up late. Don't try to sit there and think that you're going to cram 10 pounds of crap in a 5-pound bag right before the exam. It ain't going to happen. You're either ready or you're not. How about that? You're either ready or you're not, okay? Now, leading up to the exam with that confidence, when you get about 2 weeks out, that's when you can start timing yourself on questions. Get yourself a good set of database questions. Whether you're in our Fast Trax program, you have over 800 of them in there. Plus, you got the competency reviews, all that type of stuff that you can use. There's questions on the internet. We sell a module of 100 questions for like $39. There's many resources for questions, okay? But what you're going to do is in that last 2 weeks, with that confidence high, you put in the time. What you're going to do is then you can start timing yourself. 2 ways to time it. If the questions you do don't have a timer built in, that's perfectly fine. Because what I want you to do is get your phone, set your clock here. And what you do is you put the question, you get the question, you put it on 2 minutes, hit the start button, answer that. When you're finished, tap it and pause it. See if you have any time left. Okay? To me, it's not about trying to do simulation of a 2-hour, 2.5-hour exam or 3-hour exam. It's not that way. For me, it's one question at a time, trying to answer it within 2 minutes or right about there. That way, it really causes you to focus on the question. Okay? So that's how I recommend it. Now, you do what you want to do, right? But when you get down to those last 2 weeks, okay, then what happens is in those last 2 weeks, you need to start timing it, whether you take a longer time or you want to do each question and time them 2 minutes a question. That's totally up to you. But when you get to about 2 weeks, that's when you'll start worrying about your timing. Okay. And you really should be done your studying by then. I tell people all the time. So what do I recommend? 90 days. You should be done, right? Right before you start doing these. Now, during the way, there's a bunch of practice exams in our program. You should be doing those the whole time you're studying. Okay. And if you're in a program that's not structured like mine, then again, it's probably one of those things where you're going to be doing code questions. But you know what? I don't know a whole lot of people that struggle with the exams that can simply just flip through this book and get enough information to pass. They do code questions, not the optimum way to do it. They want to watch some videos, not the optimum way to do it. You need to put visual, graphics, illustrations, verbiage, because on an exam, you're not watching videos. Now, I do videos, and they're all supplemental to help you. But when you get down to that last 2 weeks, focus on questions and time each question. Okay, that type of thing. All right. All right, now let's talk a little bit before we'll get into some code questions here. Let's talk about what happens if I don't pass an exam. All right, I get it. It's kind of this kind of failure to release. You studied so hard, or you felt you studied hard. Be honest with yourself, right? Make sure that you really are honest with yourself and say, did I study right? Did I study properly? Did I put in the time that's necessary to be able to go in here confident? And that's where we've come up with the 90 days. But that doesn't mean just because you get a course or just because you grab that code book that you're going to pass. You have to be diligent. When we say 90 days, we're talking at least twice a week, 4 hours each session. Well, if you want to do 4 times a week, 2 hours each session, that's up to you. We just give you recommended study plan. So we know that life gets in the way. Things happen. So what you'll do is try to work your time into your schedule. And that's why we say at least 2 times a week, you can give us 4 hours. Because life gets in the way and you have to work. You got to make a living. We all got to make a living. Unfortunately, that's just how it goes. We don't live in a utopian society where everything is paid for us. They're trying, but that's not utopia. That's socialism. We don't want that. So at the end of the day, you get to pick your schedule, but we're telling you it's about 95 to 100 hours cumulative of study time, right? Now, and coincidentally, that breaks down to 4 hours, 2 times a week. Let's say you fail your exam. It is not the end of the world. I know it feels like it. It sucks. I'm telling you. But you will get it. Don't give up. Don't say, well, I'm putting this code book down. If I fail it, I'm putting this code book down and then next thing you know, time goes by and it becomes harder again. Stay at it. Stay on it. If you failed your exam by just a couple questions, 1 question or 2 questions, you know what? Spend a week digging in questions again, identifying where your weakness is, take your test in a week later. Now, if you're in a state that allows you, makes you have to spend a long time, I don't know, each state's different. But usually you can take it pretty soon afterwards, if it's only 1 or 2. But I need to tell you something, and you really got to listen to me here. If you failed your exam by 1 or 2 questions, you really failed it more than 1 or 2 questions. If 70's passing and you got 68, 67 and you're bummed, remember, you left 30 other questions on the table that you could have gotten right. So I understand that everybody wants to just get that barely minimum number, but I'm not happy with that. I want to go in there and get 90s, 95s, things like that. Okay? So at the end of the day, I do not want you getting down. I want you getting resilient. I want you to I'm going to get this damn thing and I'm going to be successful, because you can be successful, right? You wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be in our courses if you didn't really have the dedication. So I don't want you to get down. I don't want you to get discouraged. I'm here to help you. We give you many ways that we can reach out to you. I've consolidated everything down. You can ask me questions at paulabernathy.com. I'll answer your questions. You can go to the Sparky Hub, post your question. We'll answer your questions. You can go to Fast Trax chat. Michael's there. I'm there. You can even click a notify button and we'll come running, if you will, all right, and help you out. There's no excuse. Now, everybody absorbs knowledge differently. Okay, so I'm not here to say that one person finds a question very difficult, and the next person finds that question very easy. It's just how you process things. So look, don't freak it out. Okay, some people just don't test well, right? So again, and look, here's another thing, guys and gals. Do not get negative and think that I'm just not this electrician. I must be subpar. Why don't I know this? Johnny that works with me, he's a ditz, but he got his, but I can't even get mine. Don't do that. Don't do it. Some people just test better than others. Some people handle anxiety different than others. It's the nature of the beast, right? And this is your livelihood. So I get it. It makes sense, okay? But you will get it. Just please, don't put the code book in the corner. In fact, I'm a big believer, and we're going to get into our questions here, but I am a big believer, folks, that you are not an electrician unless you split equally the knowledge base that you need to be a top-notch electrician. You need to have the skills. You need to know how to work with your hands. I mean, I can teach a monkey to bend conduit. Okay, but you need to learn it. You need to know how to pull cable. You need to understand the fundamentals: 3-ways, 4-ways, single pole, switch legs. You need to understand all those type of things. Physical, but that's only 50% of the game. And if you doubt me, look at where somebody is in their career and they haven't advanced. That's because they're either a Romex jockey or they're a tubing bender who has not stepped their game up to learn this and then step out of the shadows and become a leader, because you all can be leaders. This is the key to being a leader. You might say, this document doesn't mean squat. I'm sorry. Every skill you do in the field has something to do with this, whether you want to admit it or not. When you put up that raceway, you have to secure it and support it, right? Secure it and support it. That's code. When you make connections and you have to make them, that's code. Put cables underground, direct burial, depth. Well, you know how to dig a trench, but you know it's all based on what? It's code. They go together. So when I read on social media and I see things on all these different platforms and they go, I don't give a damn about code, I'm an electrician, I'm like, you missed it. You don't get it. You really don't get it. Being an electrician to me is no different than any other profession: doctor, lawyer, okay, surgeon, okay. I'm not going to call a foot doctor to do a brain surgery, but I'm going to call an electrician who knows this code, because your liability is increased if you don't know this. Now, you ain't got to be the best, but you got to know how to maneuver it. Good news is you got to phone a friend. I'm always here for you if you need me, okay? Now, there you go. And again, Dave brings up a great point. A lot of people read a question. If you find yourself reading a question and you have to go back and read it again, and go back and read it again, you have reading comprehension issues. You're not alone. You're not alone. Guess what? I got reading comprehension. I have had to spend my lifetime very much focused teaching other people how to do it, because at the end of the day, sometimes you can read something, and I have a classic case of attention deficit disorder. Hey, I'm not ashamed of it. I tell people all the time. Michael will tell you, I bounce around to all kinds of crap. But when I get focused on something like a question, I dissect it, and that keeps me within my playing field, right? That keeps me in the lines, because I dissect it out. I can totally focus on it. And yes, Schwartzy does have a spelling issue. He always has. All right, so let's go on to the next thing, folks. You heard me. Let's go on to the next. Let's go on and get to the the lessons we have for today. Let's go on and pop this thing up here and look at it here. And we've got your information. Feel free to chime in. I'm going to give y'all time to see if y'all can come up with this, and I'll be looking at the code and trying to explain it. But here's a question on the screen. So let's kind of work it out a little bit. So the first question we have, it says the service demand for an apartment building with 5,000 watt electric dryers is blank watts. Anybody know the answer? Go on and work through your math. Okay? Code doesn't care. Code cares about everything, Swartzy. Everything's about code, bruh. Man. Is this the Swartzy that I'm used to? I don't know. Okay. Okay. So y'all got the question on the screen. Now think about this. While y'all are working this, let's think about this. When I look at a question like this, I go, okay. So I know you're asking me for a service application. Okay. Great. And this is all you're asking about electric dryer. Great. You didn't say anything about optional method, so that's not even on the table. So this is obviously standard method. Great. Those are all of the things that I take away from this right away. All right. Now, if you're savvy in the code, then you know, look, then you say, okay, I'm savvy in the code. Then I'm like, well, what are dryers? What's the code reference for dryers? Anybody? I'm impatient because, again, I have ADHD. So the code reference is 220.54. Now you're thinking, okay, I know the closed dryer has to be, since it's a standard method, has to be a minimum value. So it's a nameplate or 5,000, whichever is greater. Of course, you're giving me 5,000, so that's what I've got. Very good, Swartz. So then I'm going, okay. That's where I get. So y'all see this question? Now I'm going to leave because we're going to go look at the code for a second. Then we'll come back and we'll solve it. So let me go back to the code. All right, so we're in the code. And also a big shout out to NFPA and Link because, again, Link is freaking amazing. I love Link. I love it so much better than the PDFs that we used to have. And I remember I was one of those folks that cried about the PDFs. Adam French, thank you for liking the stream. Folks, like the streams. Thumbs up the streams. I know you hater out there is going to go thumbs down. Hey, you know what? Whenever you figure out how to put your content up, I'll go thumbs down you too. Or maybe I'll never thumbs down. I'm a thumbs up guy. That's all I do. Hey, it's just the effort. Somebody went through the effort to do a video. I'm never thumbs downing somebody that went through the effort. Okay? That type of thing. It just seems like an evil world to do otherwise. But you know, you do you. Horatio. Is that right? Horatio, did I get that right? Thank you for liking the stream. Appreciate it. Y'all see your names come up on the screen when you like it. All right. I think that's only over on the YouTube that works. Okay? No! Horatio was on Facebook and it worked. Thank you, Horatio. Appreciate you. It works everywhere. I like it. All right, so let's kind of look at the code. So let's go to 220. And we know we're going to dryers, and we already said it was 220.54. Here we're at. And here it says, and we'll just read it. It says the load for household electric clothes dryers in a dwelling unit, or units, S, plural, apartment complexes, there you go, shall be either 5,000 watts, and VA is synonymous with watts, y'all know that, or the nameplate rating, whichever is larger, for each dryer served. Beautiful thing. So we already know in our question it was what? The question, David, I got to go away from the question. Didn't you see the question? How long does that question need to be up there, David? I want the service demand for 40 dryers at 5 watts each, 5,000 watts each. 40 of them. You know what, David? Really? No memory? You can't be, because you're a CMECP, bro. All right, I'm just teasing you, Dave. All right, so anyway, we'll go back to the question, but I gotta kind of go there here. So, all right, so here we are real quick. It says the use of demand factors in table 220.54 shall be permitted. So we're getting to permission, and I will go back to the question in a minute, Dave. Anyway, all right. So it says, all right. So that's all we need for this one. And again, KW is the same as KVA. They're synonymous. Y'all all know that, so we don't have to worry about that. Okay. So there was 40 of them. Remember? And they were 5,000 watts each. All right. So we go down here and we know that here's the table. And I guess you can see that on the screen. Okay, looks fine. So 40 falls into this one down here. And there you see it's 35% minus a 0.5 for each dryer exceeding 23. So what does this mean? So this means that our base amount of percentage is 35. So if that's our base amount, then the ultimate number of percentage is going to be less than that because that's our base amount. So in our case, we had 40. So you would do 40 minus 23, and that leaves you a certain number. Okay, and we'll go work this in a second. We have a certain number, right? And then we work it from there. Once we have a certain number, then we can do that number times 0.5, and that is the percentage that we're going to take away from the 35. Sound confusing? No, it's not. It's actually pretty darn easy. Let's go to the lesson and let's work it. All right, David, here you go. Here's your question again, right here. All right, and we're going to work this out. Unless anybody's got the answers to this, pop it on the screen and let us go. Let me hear you. David, Horatio, Swartzy, Jake the GOAT is in the room. Man, glad I could have you in the room. The GOAT. Appreciate you. Anybody out there? Hey, Caden, I didn't miss you there. Thanks for joining me, Caden. Let's see, who else is in the house that I haven't called out? Hey, if you're listening or watching and you want to shout out, shout out. We'd love to hear from you. Love to have you in here. Okay? All right. So this is a very common question that you may get on the exam. And it is a calculation. So again, it's going to count a lot of times on a master's exam, like in Texas, the calculations is a different exam than the code lookup. Okay? So you like to think that helps you a little bit because you get to focus your time on code lookup, but then you get to focus your time on what? Calculations when you're doing calculations. Okay? But if you're taking a journeyman's exam or something like that, or a second Virginia where they combine code lookups and the calculations together, then you want to make sure that you find it. Okay, so David says, David, here's what I like about David. Okay, here's what I like about David. David, I haven't told you this, but here's what I like about it. David is the kind of guy, it's like me, I never sat in the back of the room. On anything that I've ever done, I sat up front. So when I used to do a lot of seminars around the country, you know what I do? I always call on the people in the back of the room because I know they're trying to avoid me. They're in the back of the room. If you're up front, you're ready for a challenge. You're like, bring it, bruh. That type of thing. Then that's always been how I've been, and I've never been afraid to challenge anything. Okay? But let's go on and look at this question. And the answer, I guess we should say. Okay. So here we see, and I got my calculator. Let's do the math here. So 40 times 5,000 is 200,000, right? Now we went to the table. It's 35 minus 0.5 for each dryer exceeding 23. So 40 minus 23 is 17. So there's 40 minus 23, 17. That's correct. So it's 17. Thank you, Richie, for the like. Folks, like the stream. Appreciate it. All right. So 17 times 0.5 equals 8.5. So 35 minus 8.5 is 26.5. So now you take that 200,000, multiply that by 26.5%. That is 53,000 VA. So the answer actually is 53,000 VA. And that's how you work it. Thank you, Seraphim. Thank you for liking the stream. I do appreciate it, folks. It does help us out, and it gives positive vibes. Demby, look, there are people out there watching. Demby, thank you. Appreciate you following the stream and liking it. Awesome. Okay. Now, that wasn't the easiest question in the world because you had to kind of do some math first, right? And David, it's cool. It's cool. Hey, this is the kind of thing. It's like one of those questions. It's like boom in your face, and we have to try to answer it. But that's the thing I love about you is you're willing to step up there. And I've already know your scores, so I don't worry about your 58. Folks, graded and proctored David's stuff, so he knows his stuff. So let's look at another question. Let's do it again. All right. Another classic question that you might get on an exam. Thanks, King. Hey, look who's in the house. The Basement King. You folks make sure you go over to TikTok and look for Basement King 12 and you make sure you follow him. You know what? You also need to become one of his whack hacks. The least you could do, give him $5.99 saying you love him and follow him during the week over there on TikTok. He's doing great things over there. Very excitable guy, and I like it. All right. So, but thanks for joining us, King. Taking a break from your TikTokness, your TikTok world, that type of thing. He loves that TikTok. All right. So let's kind of think about this question. On an exam, if I get a question like this, and it's saying, and this is where you have to be careful in this question, because it's not only giving you numbers, but then it's spelling out like 6 instead of saying 6. So people get kind of funkied up in the mind when they start thinking of this. And of course, some of you out there already started doing the calculations, right? You're like, all right, I'm gonna do some of these calculations. So let's look at it. Now, couple things that I remind people about when it comes to exam prep. You ready? You ready? Listen, a question like this, 6'2" AWG THWN-2 aluminum current carrying conductors in a wet location will have an ampacity of blank amps. Now remember, when you think about a conductor, and I teach this in our D-Rating Demystified, and oh, here's a plug, the new D-Rating Demystified 3.0 is coming out in a couple weeks. It is going to talk you through conductor sizing just like the old one did, but it's going to be better, and it's only going to be available over on Fast Trax Tube. You're not going to get it on YouTube. Sorry, you got to be a annual subscriber over there. But I've given you $25 off if you use coupon code 250FF. You get $25 off, and you get an annual membership, and you also get access to the upcoming grounding webinar that we're doing in about a month from now. It's included. It already pays for itself. You know what I'm saying? David's still at it. He's still working it. Keep at it, David. There you go. Thanks, King. All right, so let's look at this here. So a couple things I will tell you, just little lessons in life on a question like this. Remember, there's 3 parts to a circuit run. There's the temperature limitations at the termination, there's the temperature limitations at the equipment, and then there's the midstream run, right? The piece that's between those things. So if you, in your mind, think about, okay, I got 110.14c applications for the terminations, but then I've got that middle span that is not limited to those terminations. This question on an exam, you don't want to let your mind wander to, well, okay, well, since it doesn't say 60, 75, it doesn't say what the terminations are. No, this is exactly how you get things on an exam. It only wants you to answer the question. You have 6 2-gauge THWN aluminum current carrying conductors in a wet location will have an ampacity of blank amps. We're just talking about the conductors. Now, of course, the fact that it has THWN-2 makes it significant, right? Makes it significant for that application. But this question didn't do anything but ask you what? What is the ampacity of these conductors after this condition of use? Make sense? Okay. So what you're going to do, code references, folks. We're going to be looking at 310.15C1, right? And of course, we're looking at what? 310.16, the ampacity tables. Now, if you folks out there are still in the 2017, that is 310.15B16 for ampacity. And then the table we're looking at is 310.15B2. God, I remember now. I'm so in 2020 and 310.15B2A. B3A, excuse me, B3A. Okay, whatever. If you're in the 17, I've left that behind. I'm into 2023 now. 2022. Anyway, let's go and look. Let's see what we got. Let's see if you did it. See if David's right. What did he? O says 25 is the Prime Day sale. Oh, you got to go get the subscription. All right, here we go. So there's our references. 2 AWG in the 90-degree column is 100 amperes. We're using the 90 because this conductor is being adjusted and corrected, and it has an insulation value of 90 degrees C, right? That's what that -2 means. So this is funny because if it was just THWN, then you'd be locked to the 75. That -2 is critical because that -2, almost awesome, you're almost there. That -2 lets you know that that insulation is rated for 90, whether it's wet or dry. Okay. Now, don't forget, we still have 110.14c terminal limitations and all that. 480 amps? I hope not, Jay. So we still have limitations at terminal, but that's not what this question asks. And that's so important when you're doing an exam. And the reason I put this question up, only answer it the way it's presented. Don't try to read things into it. Okay. So in this case right here, since it's 6 current carrying conductors, table 310.15C1 says to use 80% or 0.80 as a demand factor. So the 100 comes from the 90-degree column. And remember, we're talking aluminum. So we take it and we multiply that by 0.80. That's 80 amperes. Okay. So, and again, reminder, the question never said anything about terminals, never said anything about actual installation. It simply did what? It gave you a question and asked you what the ampacity was based on the conditions that it gave you. So important. I know so many people that struggle on exams because they're electricians. They've been doing it for a while. And they go read a question and they want so deeply to interject things into it. Don't do it. Just answer the question. Once you get out of that sucker and you get out on your own, you do what you want. You ain't got it. But when you're on an exam, just follow what they ask you. Okay? Makes sense? All right. Let's go to another question. All right. Let's try your brain power on this one, folks. Let's get the hat loose a little bit. Okay? All right. I'm not wearing my Rugrat shirt. David, you got one more. Don't go yet. We got one more, David. I'm not wearing my Rugrat shirt that Grundberg likes to wear. Really? Grown man wearing a Rugrat shirt. Whatever. All right. All right. So if an 800 amp disconnect is feeding 3 sets of 600 kc mil copper conductors with each set in a separate conduit, the minimum size for the grounded conductor is what? Okay. Okay. So this is the one on an exam. This is one that's probably going to stump a lot of people because there's so many things that you got to wrap your head around with this one. First of all, we're not talking about equipment grounds. We're talking about the grounded conductor. We know that's 3 sets, right? And so the first thing that I think about here is, all right, so I know I'm talking about the grounded conductor sizing, and I know I got to take a grounded conductor, and so I'm sitting there going, okay, what do I use to determine the size of the grounded conductor? All right, okay. Well, the first thing I'm going to think of, let's go to the code real quick. Let's go. Remember, this is on the screen. Remember what we're doing. 3 sets of 600 kc mil copper, 3 separate raceways. We're trying to size the grounded conductor. Let's go to the lesson. All right, so we're over here. So the first thing I'm going to say is, all right, I know with my studies that now we could use the index and try to look for grounded conductor and all this stuff, but these are just kind of things that you need to learn, right? Sizing. That's one of the things you have to think about is sizing conductors, equipment grounded conductors, supply side bonding jumpers, equipment bonding jumper sizing, all of that type of stuff, okay? You need to start learning that as gospel, right? And that's why I tell people they should always attend my grounding and bonding courses because that's the kind of stuff that it just should be hammered into your head. And in our Fast Trax 2, we've got 12 hours of grounding and bonding. In fact, Schwartzy sat through all of that. He was in that stream back when we did 3 separate nights and recorded all that. So there's so many fundamentals in grounding and bonding. That's why we have a grounding and bonding course, because the fundamentals, everybody needs to understand fundamentals. So grounded conductor. So we're at the code real quick, and we're going to look. So here we are at the 250.24, and we're going to see what we're doing, okay? And we're going to say, okay, what are we doing here? I say, so what are we going to be trying to size? Okay, grounded conductor brought to the service. All right, so again, here we're trying to find what size the grounded conductor will be. And here you see right here, it says parallel conductors in 2 or more raceways or cables, okay? It reminds us what? It says if ungrounded service entrance conductors are installed in parallel in 2 or more raceways or cables, the grounded conductor shall be installed in parallel. The size of the grounded conductor in each raceway or cable shall be based on the total circular mill area of the unparalleled ungrounded conductors in the raceway or cable as indicated in 250.24C1, but not smaller than 1 aught. Okay. Now we're going to go back to the question because I'm going to try to cover 2 of them here in one go. Okay. Bear with me, please. 2 things: service applications, feeder applications. So buckle up. Let's go back to the lesson. All right. So this one here, it's an 800 amp disconnect, and it's feeding 3 sets of 600, then we know that our grounded conductor has to be sized based on what? It has to be sized based on a calculated load for that maximum imbalance for the neutral, 220.61. So it has to be sized at least, but it can't be less than what's given in table 250.102C1. Straightforward, right? Okay. So for a feeder, I got to do a load calc. I have to do a calculation, determine what my maximum imbalance load is. Once I know that, then I go choose my conductor. I can parallel grounded conductors, just like I can hot conductors, right? So if I've got 3 sets of 600, then I know that I need at least 1 neutral in each one of those raceways. So I can obviously parallel it, but I got to do a load calc for the feeder, okay? Now, in this case, it's still the same kind of concept for the service or the feeder in the fact that it says, you know what? I have to do what? Go back to the code. Remember, the feeder one was easy. Let's go back to the code. It says the grounded conductor. Remember, it says indicated in 250.24C1, which is right here. It says the grounded conductor shall not be smaller than specified in 250.102C1. So now we talk services. Doesn't matter whether it's feeder, still got to have the maximum imbalance load, and it can't be less than 250.102C1, but it probably will be larger. Okay. Same here for the service. Again, this application, if I'm doing parallels like this, okay, cannot be smaller than 1 aught. But if I'm paralleling it, I'm paralleling my hot conductors, I most certainly can parallel my grounded too, right? Makes sense? All right. Let's go look at the code reference here. Let's go look at the lesson again. Then it kind of got all that together. Oh, before we even leave, remember, all this one did here is kick you back up to here. And then here kicks you to here. Okay? So if I click on that table, here's the table we're all familiar with. And I want you to notice something, that this table right here is titled grounded conductor. Okay, so it says that it can't be less than what's in this table, but chances are it's going to be what? Larger. Why? Because the maximum imbalance load's probably going to be larger, and you're going to size that according to handle that maximum imbalance load. Now, if you had very little loads, it's like a temp pole or something, then there is a chance that the load might be less than the minimums per this table. But then you have to follow the table. Makes sense? I hope it makes sense. All right. All right. So anyway, so here's where we got a table. So in our case, right? In our case, here, well, you love the Wednesday night classes because you got a lot of that one-on-one time. The problem is when you only have 8 to 10 people join and you have over 5,000 students in a program, it's not a good use of my time. Okay. So at the end of the day, you can get the same responses. You just got to send your questions in at least 24 hours in advance. And then I will answer any question you got live. And that way you get your answers. It essentially works the same way. Okay, that type of thing. But we have to be good stewards of my time and create lessons, and that's why we're doing it this way. Hopefully you understand. All right, so anyway, that's our grounded conductor there. Now, with this, we have to remember that in this case, we had what? We had 3 sets of 600. So that is 1,800,000 circular mils. That's obviously over 1,100 kc mil, which is 1,100,000 circular mils, okay? 1,100,000. So that means we're going to have to do what? We're going to have to use a note 1. And the note 1 tells me if it's over 1,100 kc mil or 1,100,000, okay? Vincent, no more Zoom. Wednesday nights, this is it. For those that would have been in that meeting with the last couple of sessions of Fast Trax, the Zoom meetings, I announced it was going away. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Yeah, oh, put on mute. All right, so 1,100 kc mil and 12.5%. So we're going to be using the 12.5% rule to determine it. Got a bug in my way. All right, so let's now go back to the lesson real quick. All right, so here's the question. So let's go on and work this one out. You can kind of see how this would be on an exam. And remember, they're going to give you only about 2.5 minutes to answer this thing. So you got to be efficient, right? So here it is, right here. Hey, what's up, Emmanuel? Thanks for joining. Vincent, I forgot to tell you, thanks for joining as well. Remember, folks, give us a like, thumbs up, wherever platform you're listening on. Your name will pop up on the screen, I hope. And if it's working, and we appreciate you joining us. All right, so this question here. We've looked at it. We know that it is 3 sets of 600. We're trying to find the minimum for the grounded conductor. All right, so 250.24C2 and table 250.102C1. We kind of looked over those. The same process works either way. The only difference for the feeder is that you got to make sure it handles the maximum unbalanced load for that neutral. Maximum unbalanced neutral current. And if that's the case, it can't be less than table 250.102C1, but it may be larger conductors because of whatever the load is on that neutrals. And you have to do a load calculation for that. Okay. All right, so let's see here. Let's go back to the question. All right, so let's see what it says in the question. It says, per 250.24C2, the grounded conductor, when paralleled, shall be based on the circular mil area of the parallel ungrounded conductors. In our case, 600,000 circular mils times 3 is 1,800,000 circular mil. Now, we're going to go to 250.102C1, which we did. And since it's over 1,100 kc mil, you need to use the 12.5%. We did it. So it's 1,800,000 circular mils times 12.5%. That equals 225,000 circular mils. Now, remember what I said. Since the ungrounded hot conductors are paralleled, you're going to parallel the grounded conductor because you have to have the same association of sets within each raceway so you don't create induced currents, okay? Trying to separate neutrals. You got to keep all those conductors together. So, you know, black, red, blue in one with the neutral, black, red, blue in another one with the neutral, black, red, blue in another one neutral, keeping all of that together. So in this case, if it was 225,000 circular mils, which is at 12.5%, you would divide that by 3. But that would only be 75,000 circular mil. Now, 75,000 circular mil, where do you get the circular mil for a conductor, guys? Chapter 9, Table 8. You go look it up, and you would need, in order to be able to cover that 75,000, you would need a 1 gauge, which is 83,690. Here's the problem. Remember what it said back in 250.24C2? It says that in any case, it cannot be less than 1 aught. So even though the code seems to say, when you do the math, that a 1 would be fine, you can't because of the rules that are in 250.24C2. Now, you may also be thinking, well, how does that apply to feeders? Because I was trying to give you both in one. Well, the feeders, it's the same issue because if you go back and look at 310.10G1, that's for paralleling conductors. It's still would have forced you to have what? Parallel grounded conductors could not be smaller than 1/0. So it's still going to be 1/0. So the neutral in every one of these raceways is going to be 1/0. Whether it's oversized or not, it's irrelevant. It's going to be at least 1/0. Not just because of the paralleling rules, but if it's service conductors based on 250.24c2, if it's feeder conductors, the paralleling rule is going to kick in anyway, and it can't be less than 1/0 anyway. And of course, grounded conductors always can't be less than what's value that's in 250.102c1. Now, with a little caveat, we're not talking about the single family dwelling applications where you would use 310.12 and all that type of stuff. Because you're still going to size your grounded conductor, what? Based on what? The maximum imbalanced load, and you're going to use 220.61 to do that calculation. And you just need to make sure that you've done that calc and you can handle that maximum imbalanced load. Okay? All right. That's pretty much that. Let me kind of go to the chat real quick. Those were kind of 3 questions to look it up. And we'll try to kind of close this thing out. If anybody's got any questions in the chat, I'll do my best to answer them for you. Thank you, Stephen, for subscribing. Any of you out there that are watching the stream that aren't subscribed to the platform, please subscribe. I will also tell you that you can watch these as well over on fasttraxtube.com for free. You don't even have to be a member to watch it over there. Okay. All right. So now I want to do something real quick before we jet out of here. If you got any questions, we'll have a lesson next week. We'll do again. If you don't send any code questions, we'll probably do a lesson. Probably going to do a little bit on motors next week. So again, but if you've got any Fast Trax questions, make sure you send them to us within 24 hours, please, so that I can get a slide made up for you. It just makes everything work better for me here. Secondly, you can submit any question you want to me over at paulabernathy.com. It's free. Just go to paulabernathy.com. Okay? Yep. So, yes, Richie, even though the calculation is 1, because they're parallel, the parallel rules in 310.10G1 says it can't be less than 1/0. And if it was service conductors, it also says in 250.24C2 that it can't be less than 1/0. So even though you did the calculation, it still can't be less than 1/0. That's exactly 100% right. Okay. All right, real quick, let's go back here to the NEC here. I want to take you real quick over to our website. This is our website. I want to remind you that you can get your blogs from right here. We have tons of blogs. I encourage you to read our blogs. There are tons of them, a lot of them on calculations, all kinds of history of Charles Dalzell, the father of GFCI. There's page after page of really good blogs. Bus bar calculations, okay? Let's see here. Hot tub, feeder, and branch circuit question of the day with Nika, where I disagree with Nika. Variable frequency drives explained. Basics of a transformer construction. 4 rules of electrical maintenance. Tons of great stuff over here. Guys, it's free. It's free. Go check it out. The other thing that I'll tell you that's over here is if you get our mobile app, go right here where it says mobile app. And all you got to do is scan this barcode with your phone, or if you're on your phone, click on this link right here. It'll ask you, do you want to put a shortcut on your home screen of your phone? Absolutely. Remember, we're not loading any software on your phone. All it's doing is putting a quick click link to get you to it. That's all it's doing. So don't worry. Paul's not trying to get into your phone and that kind of stuff. Also, I do want to remind you again of some free courses that we have available. We have here is the boxes and enclosures. It's free. Give it a shot. You can print your certificate when you're done. Look, I'm trying to give you all the resources I can. Here's another one. If you want to do the electrical prep primer, you think your skills are good? I'm telling you right now, this one's tough. It's free. You can start it. Just go, make sure you go up and register, and then you can go in and take this one for free. Okay? But you got to register up on the top right of the screen, and you can register. If you want a practice exam questions, right? Then we have a new 100-question database all on our websites, $39.95. Boom. You can add it to your cart. Check it out. Easy peasy. We also have a budget-friendly Fast Trax budget course. Now, you don't get all the bells and whistles. You don't get me grading your competency reviews. You don't get the 800 question package. You don't get all that one-on-one stuff, but you do get the basic course material, and it's $199. So if you're in a budget, or maybe you don't want 90 days, maybe you want to study for 3 or 4 weeks, and you just want something, you just want the material, but you don't need my hands-on assistance by grading your reviews and things like that, then there's some budget course for you. It's certainly not as good as our Fast Trax Black or even the Plus, but it's there for you if you want it. We try to make things as affordable as we can for you here. Also, any future upcoming webinars, folks, you see this events tab, you'll click it here and the event will show up here. We don't have it here yet, but when you do, it will be right there. Now, let me tell you a little bit about our app. It's got calculators. It's got resources. You can listen to all the podcasts from our app, not that Wix app. We're done with Wix, folks. So if you're over on our old website using Wix, we're not going to answer you because we're not using that stuff anymore. We have all our own apps and stuff that we're using. So make sure you check them out, okay? All right. If you need to get to your Cengage portal, it's right here. Here's the chat rooms if you want to get to the Sparky Hub or you want to get to the chat that Mike's at or I'm at. You know, if you register for the main site, you don't have to register for the Fast Trax chat. You're already in. Just log in like normal. Your login is fine for the chat, that type of thing. All right. You want to be an affiliate and you want to make money selling courses? There you go. Click our affiliate link. You can make money selling courses. Ask the Basement King. He's doing amazing promoting courses, things like that. If you need to contact me at any time, you can always click the contact button right here on the screen. And there's our information, and there's an easy form for you to be able to send us a question or whatnot. But if it's code related, I need you to go to paulabernathy.com. If you're not sure what that is, I'll show you, paulabernathy.com. Oops, if I type it right, .com. Let me click it. Here's the free portal, folks. It's free. We have these disclaimers down here. I am no longer allowed to answer technical questions for people without going through here. Obviously, we're a bigger corporation now, and we need to make sure that we follow our channels. So this is what we've been set up for. And all you got to do is put your name, email address, and type your question to your heart's content. If you're a Fast Trax student, all you got to do is put the question you're asking about, give me the detail where it is. Don't expect me to go look it up. Cut and paste your question here, and then if you have any questions, ask it. And if you want your question to be featured on a podcast or on one of these Wednesday night sessions, this is the best place to go. Post your question there and just let me know you're a Fast Trax student so you can jump to the top of the heap. Also, you happen to want to be here, you want to listen to all the podcasts that are the Let's Ask Paul versions, they're all here as well. So you can listen to all of the Let's Ask Paul specific podcasts from this location if you want. Works on a web device or whatnot, all those type of things. Of course, you can donate if you like it, but I recommend you don't donate. I recommend you go get a Fast Trax Tube subscription. $25 off if you use 25 OFF, all caps, and I'll give you 25 off. All right? All right, folks. Enough of those sales pitches, okay? I hope you appreciated tonight, got something out of it, some little tips that I could give you at the beginning. If you came in late, go back and watch the rebroadcast and see the tips about tabbing and highlighting and putting words in charts and formulas in the front of your code book. All those type of things. How to prepare for anxiety. We also have some great blogs that talk about that as well. So do me a favor, use all of the resources you can. We have blogs. We write them for you. Make sure you go use them. All right? All right, folks. I appreciate you all, and I thank you for taking the time out of your busy night to be with me. We will see you next week. Remember, send in your questions, and I will have another lesson next week. Till next time, stay safe. God bless.